the COVID-19 death rate peaked in the U.S. in April. There are more pneumonia deaths than COVID-19 deaths in 2020. Pretty much seem to ride side by side. Starting back in February, you had some pneumonia deaths, and then the COVID steps in and they kind of merge together. And then as the pneumonia deaths the pneumonia deaths quit peaking and a little bit into April, and the COVID virus takes over for the pneumonia and takes a few more people out. And then both the pneumonia and the COVID start to decline pretty close to the same rate of speed until the beginning of July. And then pneumonia starts kicking in again, and what a coincidence, so does COVID at the same time. And then they kind of go up a little bit until looks like mid-July. And then they both kind of spike just a little bit, but the pneumonia, about the same time that the COVID starts spiking, the pneumonia starts to drop a little. Oh, thank God they're not, doing too much damage at the same time. And then, what a coincidence, the same time that the pneumonia started to drop, so did the COVID-19. And now they both have almost completely bottomed out to around 0 deaths again. Right now at the same time. Isn't that strange how they just kind of work together so nicely? So anyways, what we clearly see from the current data is that both COVID and pneumonia peaked in April. So I wonder why we've been hiding so much all summer. Well, I haven't been, but everybody else is. The increase of reported deaths in July was minor and certainly not a material event. Also, what is apparent from the data is that there are more pneumonia deaths to date this year, 159,990, than COVID deaths, which is 100,700. Reported until March, while pneumonia deaths started earlier in the year. Oh, I see. So the pneumonia kicked in first, took a few people out, then COVID came in and took over so that pneumonia could take a break. Anyways, the Democrats and the mainstream media want you to believe that COVID-19 is on fire right now, and it is clearly not. So it's cool if you want to go back to work. Just, keep your distance and don't cough and spit on each other. And you're probably going to be okay. Wash your hands and things like that. If you think you're sick, stay home for a couple weeks quarantining. You've time off whenever. 15% reduction from mid-July. Hospitalizations have been halved since April. Nursing home and long-term care facilities have 1% of the U.S. population, but death rate for COVID patients was among the elderly, and the elderly are 1% of the U.S. population. So it's a lot of people. But anyways, point being, most of the deaths are from the elderly, who are naturally susceptible because they never had a chance to develop antibodies towards this virus, I suppose. And elderly people, coincidentally, they're also very susceptible to pneumonia. Retail spending is at an all-time high, with auto production alone surging 28%. How is it even possible that retail spending is at an all-time high? Nobody is going out shopping. Everybody's staying home and going shopping periodically. I don't know, maybe people are just spending a whole bunch at once when they go out and buying more than they normally would at once, just in case they have to get locked down again. Relations. Small business optimism is higher than at any month in the Obama administration. Industrial production is increasing at the fastest rate ever recorded. You really can't believe almost anything reported in the mainstream media these days. They want Americans to believe that COVID-19 is getting worse all the time. It is not. So there's some good news for you. The CDC is finally admitting that maybe the COVID's not as deadly as they thought it was going to be. So that's really good to hear. Let's see what else is going on today in the news. That was the CDC. Portland assault victim. Yeah, that's actually just an ad. On the same day as his DNC speech, AP reports Governor Cuomo killed 11,000 New Yorkers in nursing homes, not 6,000, and it is likely much higher. Okay, just for the record, I don't think that Governor Cuomo intended to kill 11,000 nursing home patients. I think his intention was to make sure that the nursing home, that the elderly didn't just get rejected from the nursing homes, because where would they go? If they live in a nursing home, they might not have any family to go to, and then what would they do? So to say that isn't fair, but they definitely needed to take a lot of precautionary measures, and the fact that Governor Cuomo is trying to blame it on the nurses is just wrong. Those poor nurses didn't know for sure what this virus was, and they had to take that chance anyways. But let's take a look here. In July, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo released a poster at his press conference that celebrated his response to the COVID-19 China coronavirus that devastated New York, and especially New York City this year. His response, my goodness, he spent the whole time grandstanding, doing conferences, acting like New York. To go the way you think they should go. Things don't work out that good. They forget to draw the nursing homes, adult care facilities, and group homes for people with disabilities on the map. This was an outrageous statement by the governor, especially considering New York State has the worst coronavirus numbers in the world. The mortality rate in New York is significantly higher than any country in the world. That's really sad. So here's a chart here. Let's see what this looks like. So this is for the USA. New York, total cases, 3,460,640. I'm sorry, that was the total cases in the USA. In New York, 428,090 cases total. And total deaths, 32,444. This is an old graph, so I'm not going to bother reading all these other numbers. Total tests, 4,724,802. Tests per million that came up. Tests per million, 242,880. So that's New York's numbers. This was back in, I think it was in July. And then you had California, Florida, Texas, In New Jersey, that was the order of highest death rates. Only New Jersey had a worse number than New York per 1 million residents. Both states sent coronavirus patients to nursing homes. There's not a single country in the world that has worse numbers than New York State. So, and then it goes on to show all the different countries and what their numbers looked like in comparison. No country comes close to New York State in a number of per million residents. The closest country is Peru, that had 796 deaths per million residents. And I would have to agree, though, Cuomo's in part, it's his fault because he was too busy trying to take over the handling of the situation and do all the thinking of, it was like listening to a little kid play house or something, and they're, you're going to do this, and we're going to go do this, and yeah, I don't know, it's just, he made it too much about himself and didn't focus on reality. And the reality is that we have the ability to fight these things off naturally. And if you don't try to manipulate them, you're much more likely to come out okay. I don't know. Anyways, he was too busy trying to control and manipulate things, and ultimately it ended up in a lot of unnecessary deaths of a lot of elderly people. And that's just wrong, because that was a lot of knowledge of our history that just got wiped out. And considering how hard they're working to wipe out knowledge of history on the Democrat side anyway, it's a little bit disturbing that it just happened to be that all these elderly people with all this knowledge to pass down to us are now dead, and we will never know the things that they knew. It's very heartbreaking. New York did a worse job than any country on earth. On Monday, the same day that Governor Cuomo trashed President Trump in his DNC speech, the AP updated their numbers and now believe at least 11,000 New Yorkers died in nursing homes from coronavirus. But then how would they know? If they weren't doing any autopsies on anything, who says that they died of any virus? Where's the proof that anybody died of the coronavirus? Because so far, at least in the news I hear, I very rarely hear the name of the people that died or their history or their story. And I don't believe that they have even identified the virus directly, just the symptoms and genetic materials. And I'm not a lab researcher or anything, so I don't know. But according to other doctors and researchers, they don't even actually have a test that's identifying the virus directly. They're identifying other things that would surround a coronavirus. But anyways, where's the proof? Where's the autopsies? Where's the funerals? Where's the people who have lost their relatives? In my area, I haven't met a single person that knows a single person that has died of the coronavirus. And the people that say they know somebody that died that had the coronavirus ultimately don't know if they actually died from the coronavirus. And when you look closer, there's always something underlying that would likely kill them. So, just saying, did the elderly people die of a coronavirus, or did they die of pneumonia? Or were they executed in order to shut them up so that all those people who knew, just knew about our history, if you shut them up, then they can't tell us what's really going on in our government today. And those are all people who had, probably had knowledge of things that are highly classified and things we'll never actually get to see unless they're able to speak up. And now they can't speak up. So I suspect that these deaths had had more to do with people being silenced than a virus, but that's my own speculation. Anyways, they say Como shouldn't be celebrated. Of course, he should be investigated. I agree. There should be at least that much, but what about the autopsies? What did the people really die from? That'd be my question. So, anyways, there's more on your COVID updates. So, big tech electioneering. Twitter suspends Team Trump on tour account on second day of bus tour. So, they're doing everything they can to keep the candidates from campaigning for their election because they don't want to play fair, apparently. The Pentagon is investigating possible drone sightings near Air Force One. The DNC speaker blames Trump for her father dying of COVID-19, says that he caught it at a karaoke bar. So I suppose Donald Trump instructed her father to go to the karaoke bar and sing and spit all over the place and breathe in other people's germs, and then it caused him to die. And yeah, the Trump should definitely be held accountable for that. President Trump to announce major pardon today, and it won't be Snowden or General Flynn. There's much speculation on who it will be. I already know. I'll tell you in a minute. Corrupt to the core, crooked Michelle Obama tells Democrats to vote early by mail and to vote in person. Okay, now that's a little strange since the Democrats are having protests in person complaining about voting in person. And yeah, I don't consider Michelle Obama corrupt to the core the way I think or crooked. I think she is just stuck with a lot of bad people. But I personally like her and haven't heard anything about her that you can say that she's corrupt or crooked, but whatever. Anyways, sorry. So Michelle Obama tells the Democrats that they should vote early and in person. Voting early is wrong. I mean, I say do not vote early, especially this year. You don't know what kind of things are going to happen leading up to the elections that may change your mind. There's no way to know those things. And just throwing a check mark next to whatever political party you stand by is just blatantly foolish because these political parties are lying to us all the time and they're changing their stories and their narratives. You really do have to look and see where your political party actually stands. They don't stand for the things that they represent. You stand for the things that your political party represents. Your politicians are all about manipulating their voters to get what they want, and they could care less about you personally. So you really got to look closer at your candidates and your political party affiliation. So anyways, again, we're still in the Gateway Pundit. This is still Joe Hoft. It used to be a joke that Democrats voted early and often. It's no longer a joke. But last night, Michelle Obama proudly urged her fellow Democrats to vote early and then go vote in person. And just one real quick thing I noticed, this picture here of Michelle Obama, she looks really pretty. She looks really nice. Her skin looks a lot darker than on some of her other pictures. They show another picture of her and her skin is almost like a goldish reddish hue, and it's much lighter than this one. And she has just a slightly different, more chiseled look to her face in the other one than she does in this one. And her chin it looks longer than this one. I don't know. When I first saw this one, I didn't think it really she looked different, but it's been a while since she's been in office. People tend to look better once they've had time to rest and everything. But I just think that this looks like two different people. Anyway, so she pre-recorded her speech early, which I'd have to question why that is, and why are they pre-recording it? Just go to the frickin' convention and show up in person. If you're an honest person, you don't need to hide in your basement. So Michelle Obama told Democrats to vote early and in person last night. The subtlety wasn't missed by many. They want it any which way, so long as power, Pelosi, and others push mail in for all. Michelle Obama pushes vote often. Either me and crookedness doesn't bother them one bit. Michelle, quote, "We've got to vote early, in person if we can. We've got to request our mail-in ballots right now, tonight, and send them back immediately and follow up to make sure they're received and then make sure our friends and families do the same." That's strange. When I was growing up, you didn't, your vote was anonymous to your family and friends. It was personal. You didn't ask what the other person voted for, and you certainly didn't get in their faces and pressure them to vote. You kept that out of your relationship because it tends to cause division if you don't agree with each other. But anyways, and as for the mail-in ballots, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but you're supposed to, I think, request it, show your ID. Something has to verify that you're a legitimate citizen asking for a mail-in ballot. And the Democrats, what they're trying to do is do universal mail-in ballots where it's not the voting ballots aren't even designated for anyone. They just get sent out a whole bunch of ballots. It says on the back of the envelope whether or not it's a Republican or Democrat. So it's really, they don't even need to look at your ballot. They'll know whether or not they want your vote when they're counting it. There's no verification of who you are either. It makes absolutely no sense. And it's just stupid to actually try to convince us that somehow should be acceptable. So the president, what he did was they had set it up so that the post office would work in their favor on the ballot, delivering ballots. And the post office, again, they would know whether you voted Republican or Democrat and could choose whether or not they want to accept your votes. So it's just open to all kinds of corruption. The mail-in ballots for like absentee voting and stuff, those have checks and balances and are not just openly sent out to the entire population. Not just anybody can write their dog's name down or whatever they want and send it in. And also, again, man, I just don't think that voting early should be allowed ever. It's totally unfair to the candidates, and like Michelle Obama is trying to rush people to hurry up and vote because there are people who are in deep trouble right now and have been committing treason and all kinds of very bad things. And so they're desperate to stop the president from being reelected because they want to shut down any kind of accountability for all the things that they have put the American population through. Anyways, sorry. Listen to Michelle Obama. Have a plan to vote. Vote early in person if you can, or request your ballot now and send it back immediately. Do not wait until the last minute to vote this year. And I guess that's about all they have to say about that. And I just don't think that that's good advice. But at least she said to go vote in person. So I guess if she says it's okay, that's okay. Just don't trust the doctors. Either crazy Nazi scientist Fauci or Sweet Michelle can tell you whether or not it's okay to vote in person. But don't listen to the doctor, and definitely don't listen to the president. Michelle says you can vote in person, so yay. So now, this is kind of cute. President Trump pardons Susan B. Anthony on centennial of 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. Well, that's a nice thing to do. So this is the centennial of the woman's right to vote. So in honor of that, President Trump teased reporters on the flight back to Washington last night that he will be making a major announcement today and pardoning someone big. He said it won't be General Flynn or Eric Snowden. Let's see. Sorry, this is just a lot of junk on this page. Still on the Gateway Pundit. On Tuesday morning, President Trump announced he was pardoning Susan B. Anthony, a leader of the women's suffrage movement. Anthony was arrested in 1872 for voting in an election. Wow, that's just crazy. At the time, only men were allowed to vote. President Trump made the announcement this morning at the White House. That's interesting. I didn't know. I didn't pay a lot of attention in school to my history, so I didn't know that's what she was about.
I will be signing a full and complete pardon for Susan B. Anthony. She was never pardoned. Did you know that? She was never pardoned. You know that she got pardoned for a lot of other women, and she didn't put her name on the list. So she was never pardoned. And we're for voting. That's right, she was guilty for voting. And we are going to be signing a full and complete pardon. And I think that's really good. So thank you very much. And let us sign, and we'll do the other signing later on. It's being prepared right now. And I look forward to doing it. Thank you very much.
Well, that was really nice. And look, all these people standing around him, they're not wearing face masks. I'm guessing they're not Democrat. Interesting. So that was a nice thing for the president to do today. Such a chauvinistic pig he is. Just kidding, of course. The president might be, kind of old school mentality, but I think he actually does a lot to try to look out for women, and people are always saying the worst things about him. But if you look, however you want to take it, that's one thing. But he, from the beginning of his career, he's been employing women into unique positions that men would normally fill because he felt like they would try harder than the men and do a better job because they're so determined to prove themselves. And he's right. And I don't see anything wrong with that. The fact is that he had enough trust in a woman to do these jobs and gave that woman those jobs, despite whatever he may or may not think of women. That would have been the right thing to do. And I think that's a great thing that he does. And he does it all the time. He has appointed women into specific jobs more than once during his presidency, several times. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. He gives everybody from all different categories of class, sex, race, whatever. He tries to be all inclusive and consider what's important to everyone. And I think that's an admirable thing. So anyways, what do we got here? Democrat dumpster fire on day one of the DNC. Democrats promote violent protests, open borders, and devastating and foolish Green New Deal. And that sounds about right. Not going to bother reading that. Sit back and watch President Trump roast Michelle Obama after her convention speech. I'm not going to watch that. That's just silly. But see, if you're looking at this, look how different this face looks. That's the Michelle Obama face that I recognize compared to, compared to this other picture where she is fixed up all nice. And, where did it go? Yeah, okay, so this picture is supposed to be last night when she recorded her convention speech. She's got a very small chin. She's much darker skinned. I don't know. I just think that sorry, I keep hitting the wrong button. I just think that she looks considerably different in that picture compared to this other one up here. I don't think that looks like the same person. Maybe I'm just too skeptical. Who knows? Even liberal media can't defend her lies. AP roasts Michelle Obama on her dishonest kids in cages speech. Yeah, we know that her husband set up and staged these kids in cages pictures to lay the guilt trip on everybody before Trump was ever in office. And then they took those events and tried to stick them to Trump. So for the record, he did not do that. He did not set up cages for kids. I don't know if they had to temporarily put them in there for, processing them, through the system and stuff, but that was not his setup. He was going based on what Obama had already put into place. So anyway, so it sounds like the Democrat convention dumpster fire. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer on hot mic. It's Shark Week, motherfuckers. And apparently that's a big deal to people, so I personally don't see the big deal. The Democrat convention kicked off Monday evening, and it was a total joke. The virtual DNC was poorly produced and resembled an online awards show. Michigan Democrat Governor Gretchen Whitmer was joking on a hot mic and talking about Shark Week. She said, "It's not Shark Week, it's Shark Week, mother effer." And I've learned about the hot mic. So she apparently learned about it, but still failed to avoid the hot mic. Okay, yeah, whatever. She said it was the word mother effer. Apparently that must be the big deal. I really don't care. For announcing Joe Biden's VP running mate and announcing Kamala Harris. And I just want to point out that, I don't know where they held the presser. I tried to look a little bit and couldn't really get any answers off of Google. But it was very strange. They made their announcement. They both gave their pre-written, pre-planned, insincere speeches. Then they, pretended like they were good old friends. And then when the speech came to an end, it's like they dodged each other. He tried to kind of reach out and be comforting to her, and she looked very uncomfortable. I don't know. I just get this strange feeling that Kamala Harris is not doing this by choice and that she's putting on an act because she's got no choice. But I could be wrong. That's my speculation. It just seemed very strange. And then they had the camera zeroed in on them making the speeches, and you got your American flags behind them, and they're making it sound all, sweet and wonderful. except that I noticed that she said things like at the end of her speech, she said, "I'm honored to represent," and then she kind of hesitated and said, "You, the people." It was weird. And then when they came to the end of the speech, the cameraman they weren't showing an audience, but they were making it seem like there was an audience in there, but there wasn't. There, as far as I could tell, it was just press, and if there was an audience, it had to have been pretty small. So the cameraman backs up his camera a little bit and shows the whole stage, and it becomes pretty obvious that there's nobody in there. First of all, they ended their speech, and instead of, like letting an applause play and taking questions and things like that, they just immediately jumped to playing a bunch of music that was too loud to hear whether or not anybody was clapping. And then they hurried up and separated to either end of the stage and took a bow and refused to take any questions. If you're announcing you're running for president of the United States and this is going to be your running mate, taking questions should be crucial. They should be doing everything they can to impress and please the people that they're supposed to be representing. But it turns out that they were standing in front of other flags that are not America. I'm not sure. I suspect they were the European Union flags or the United Nations flags, but I don't know. It was very strange, and it just looked very inappropriate to me. I know that they use flags as sort of to symbolize whatever the subject matter is and whoever they're representing. So why would they be having a bunch of flags for foreign countries on either side of the American flags when we're talking about an American presidential election that has nothing to do with other countries, or it shouldn't have anything to do with these other countries? And why wouldn't they be taking questions? If their intentions are good, there shouldn't be any problem with taking questions. It's just all very strange. And then there's all the obvious factors of things that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are guilty of or being accused of. And instead of facing the music and explaining themselves to the people that they're supposed to be representing, they refuse to take questions. I don't know. Just that whole speech was very disturbing. I guess there was no electricity on, and it was just, why were they giving a speech from that place? Where were they? Why did it include a bunch of foreign flags? Where was the audience? Why was the press being shut up? And then their next press briefing, or I don't know if it was their next one or their other ones shortly after that, they were signing, or they were doing something about how they were going to deal with the COVID-19 stuff, as if it was still this really, immediate problem that needs to be handled. And they were acting like they were already leaders of this country, and it was up to them to dictate how things were being handled and update the people. And they're not even in office, or they're not even in, Biden's not in office, and Kamala's in Senate. She's not VP yet. So they have no right to be sitting there telling the country how they think things should be handled with this virus, and acting as if they're somehow the official word on it. But anyways, they did this. I didn't personally watch the press briefing because I thought it was kind of pathetic, but kind of just caught the end of it. And they, same thing as the other one, they're sitting completely on opposite sides of the room from each other. And they're sitting, I guess I didn't look to see if there was all those flags in the background. I know the stage was real dark and kind of strange looking. It was like symbolically set up or something. And then they're sitting at a desk on the stage, and then they finish their briefing and they refuse to take questions. The reporters are insisting on them taking questions and kind of begging them to take questions. And the weird part was they were just completely ignoring the reporters. It was like they didn't even hear the reporters talking to them, almost as if they weren't actually there. Now, there's a whole lot of talk lately about using holograms to make it look like there's an audience. Are they also using holograms to make it look like certain people are there when they're not? They didn't even, like, normally if you're trying to ignore somebody and they're asking you questions, you can't help but to react in some way. You might give a look or a short answer or something. It's just human nature, that's what you do. And they didn't do that. They just sort of walked away as if nobody was there. It feels like they got a gun to their head and they're just doing what they're told, and there's no debating it. It's all very strange and suspicious. Someone else noticed that a lot of the people who are giving virtual speeches are like Joe Biden and people like that. It almost appears as if they're doing it from the same place. They all seem to have the same kind of background behind them, or I don't know about all, but several of them. And then the room that Joe Biden's talking from has all kinds of cameras and lights and stuff set up in his basement. I could see that, but it does appear that they're all sitting in front of the same background, and almost as if they're all just going to one specific meeting area to do their camera virtual stuff, and then they're going somewhere else. I don't know. Why are they all hiding and avoiding coming back to work? How many vacations do you get to take a year, and how many vacations do the American people have to pay for? You're taking more time in vacations than you are actually working. And there should be a limit on how many hours of vacation you get, just like anybody else at their job. So if you're going beyond that, you should be losing your paycheck. You should not be continuing to collect pay when you're not doing your job. Take unemployment and get the same amount as everybody else, but they're making almost $200,000 a year at our expense, and they're not doing the job that on our behalf. They're acting on behalf of other countries and other criminal organizations and totally dismissive of the American people. So I don't know. I just thought these press briefings are getting weird and kind of creepy. And then you've got, the election interference in a massive way. These are the same people that spent the last 4 years insisting that there was election interference from Russia, and they're just pushing election interference to the max. And no matter what the president does to prevent any cheating and do what's right, like Obama should have done, and make sure that the elections are honest and accurate, they're fighting him at every turn to keep him from making sure the elections are accurate. And it's almost as if they're acting like they're already in charge, and he's just sort of a nuisance to them or something. They have no regard for what the American people actually want. I just find this all to be so disturbing. They want to destroy capitalism, according to Nicole McRae. I'm just taking a quick look here. How dogs cry for help. 3 warning signs your dog is crying for help. That's another ad. Former U.S. attorney claims creepy Mueller gang leader Andrew Weissman. I don't know why they call him creepy. I haven't heard much about him, but I think there was some kind of couple hints of it that after October that it was here, but an obvious or February. and then they didn't think it was necessary to shut the country down until around March. Anyways, whatever. Portland DA actually vows to prosecute violent terrorists who pummeled the truck driver in a viral video. Well, that's good to hear. At least they're doing one thing right. St. Louis homeowner Mark McCloskey will speak at the RNC convention next week. Portland police, a man was brutally beaten and kicked in the head by Antifa and BLM thugs, has non-life-threatening injuries. Another guy had just died. I'm not sure if that's the same. I don't guess that's not the same report, but this guy had pulled up into one of their riots or was driving through it, and they started swarming his car, and he couldn't get away from them, so he tried forcing his way through and driving through the crowd, and he started to get away, but then he crashed into something, and they pulled him out, and they beat the living crap out of him. He ended up dying. But these protests are peaceful. That's just many stories. I can't even keep up. There's so many people being killed in these protests. And suspiciously, there's an awful lot of children. I can understand an accident or two happening during these riots, where a child gets caught in the crossfire, but I'm starting to become highly suspicious of the fact that many 1-year-olds, 7, 8-year-olds, 4 and 5-year-olds are being shot and killed or accidentally caught in some kind of crossfire. It just seems a little bit, there's a lot of pedophilia, rings, trafficking rings, and porn rings and stuff revolving around children that are being busted down. For example, there was one where it was like a thing for people to molest 1-year-olds on the internet and sell it like porn. So I just find it a little strange that all these 1-year-olds are suddenly being killed. And then in cult rituals leading up to the age of 7, they consider them ripe for their cult ritual activity, which involves sodomizing children. So I find it a little strange that a lot of these children dying are up to the age of 7 or 8, 9 years old. And then, I don't know, it's just strange and really heartbreaking. And it's a shame because these little kids have no voice. They don't even understand what's happening, or, what these people are doing to them is wrong, or maybe they understand it, but don't know any better to say something, or they're so little that they can't say anything. And then these people are, I don't know, it's just a horrifying nightmare when it comes to the pedophilia rings and the trafficking rings. I just don't understand how there can be so many messed up people out there. But anyways, it's a little bit strange that all these people just keep dying, all these little kids. And nobody seems to care enough to have big, massive funerals and worldwide protests and golden caskets for these children. But they'll do it for criminals and propaganda. Just in bid to revitalize the post office, AOC proposes a national progressive pen pal program to boost stamp sales. It's kind of simple-minded and probably wouldn't make a huge difference in money, but it's not a bad idea. They're just trying to find a way, though, it sounds nice, but they're really just trying to find a way to fund their universal ballot harvesting plan that Trump just thwarted because he won't give the money the post office to push their ballot harvesting. And so this is what they do. They come up with some idea and do it in the name of, something special, and then really it's just another way of manipulating money into the DNC or whatever project they're working. So anyways, special prosecutor finds Soros-funded state's attorney Kim Foxx committed abuses of discretion in the Jussie Smollett case. And this is the one where he tried to set up Trump supporters to make it look like there were a bunch of racist people who were going around threatening to hang colored people, and they were in mega country and had nooses and bleach. It was a blatant lie. There's such minimal racism in America that he had to pay other colored people to stage a fake attack. So that's what that case was about. But let's see what the judge has to say here. So Hollywood actor Jussie Smollett was let off by the corrupt Cook County State's Attorney's Office last year after his vicious stunt to smear Trump supporters as homophobic racists backfired. Smollett, also referred to as French actor Jussie Smollett, was later recharged with 6 counts related to the alleged hate hoax in February. In April of 2019, Chicago authorities released text messages from State Attorney Kim Foxx. The messages revealed that Kim Foxx continued to intervene in the case in support of Smollett after she recused herself. Chicago reporter Charlie DeMar posted the message on his Twitter feed. Here's the Twitter feed. Let's see if I can read it here. So it says, pointless. Yeah, it's not who we want to be, for sure. With him taking over, we can take a hard look at how we charge the cases and get it to something that covers what needs to be covered without being excessive and ultimately pointless. And then, yeah, it's not who we want to be. So text messages from State Attorney Kim Foxx to staff about 2 weeks before charges were dropped on Jussie Smollett refers to Smollett as a washed-up celeb who lied to cops. Texts obtained through the FOIA request. Oh, okay, we're talking about him. So I'm recused, but when people accuse us of overcharging cases, 16 counts on a class 4 becomes Exhibit A. Pedophile with 4 victims, 10 counts. Washed up celeb who lied to cops, 16 on a case eligible for deferred prosecution, I think. It's indicative of something we should be looking at generally. Just because we can charge something doesn't mean we should. I agree. I'll get with charge the cases. Thing. Those are just snapshots of the text messages. It's clear that Kim Foxx lied about her interference in the Jussie Smollett case. National prosecutor in Illinois investigating how Chicago prosecutor Kim Foxx carried out the Jussie Smollett hate hoax. Investigation has found substantial abuses of discretion in Foxx's actions. Special prosecutor investigating how Chicago prosecutor Kim Foxx carried out the Jussie Smollett hate hoax investigation has found substantial abuses of discretion in her actions. Early in 2019, the former Empire star claimed that he was attacked by mega hat-wearing racists who beat him and poured bleach on him in downtown Chicago during below. Police investigation claimed that Smollett invented the attack. Smollett was arrested and charged with fraud, but Cook County prosecutor Kim Foxx quickly dismissed the case and released Smollett, dropping the charges. Fox's rush to release Smollett sparked a special investigation into her actions led by Dan Webb, who began investigating the case. Webb found a number of transgressions committed by Fox and her office. While Webb demurred in finding that Fox broke any laws during her involvement in the case, he still noted that many of her actions were dubious at best and unethical at worst, according to the Chicago Sun-Times. In one instance, Webb found that Fox lied about ceasing her communications with Smollett after it became known that Chicago Police Department was looking to charge him with a crime. Indeed, Webb discovered records proving that Fox continued to discuss Smollett's case with his actress sister, Journey Smollett, up to 8 times after she publicly claimed she was no longer in contact with the Smolletts. State's Attorney Fox learned by February of 2019 that Smollett had become a suspect in CPD's investigation, yet she continued communicating with Miss Smollett through February 13th, 2019, including via 5 text messages and 3 phone calls. State's Attorney Fox then made false statements to the media, claiming she ceased all communications with Miss Smollett as soon as she learned that Miss Smollett was a suspect in the California PD's investigation and no longer merely a victim, Webb said in his summary. Webb also said that Fox's claim that she had to recuse herself from the case and her subsequent intention to appoint an acting state's attorney for the case were legally suspect. Rather, she should have asked a judge to appoint a special prosecutor. Webb added that Fox made legal. So anyways, okay, first off, you had just a bunch of innocent people, white people, look bad because he's extremely racist, apparently. But then they were going to charge him, I forget, it was like 17 counts of something. The charges were so ridiculous and outrageous that they screwed up themselves by trying to push charges to that degree. I mean, it shouldn't have, that was just totally inappropriate. Yes, he screwed up. Yes, he should have consequences, but give me a break. I mean, they were going exceedingly overboard. And I think that's why she dropped it, was because it was just totally ridiculous how far they were charging him. And obviously they didn't want the voters to know that they were faking these racist attacks and that Trump supporters are not actually racist. But it probably would have been more likely to just stick and he would have got some kind of light punishment and they would have moved on. But when they confiscated his phone, they found evidence on that phone that brought it up to a federal investigation level, and it involved other things besides the staged attack on Smollett. I guess there was other things related to trafficking and stuff, probably in the acting industry, I guess. But I guess it turned out that they found much bigger things than the staged attack, and so they decided they were going to reopen things and take another look. So that's good. I don't hear anything so far about the rest of the investigation, but at least they didn't let it go, because that was totally unfair to everyone who is being made to look racist and isn't actually racist. But at the same time, don't think it's good to be excessive. It discredits it takes away from the justice that should be given. CommuFest, the Communist Parties of America for 2020. Here is the schedule of speakers and key themes for Monday night's DNC virtual rally. I'm not going to bother wasting my time on that article. He's dialing it in. Joe Biden has made only one trip over 100 miles since March, and that was a short jaunt into Pennsylvania. You gotta wonder, is he even in town or in his basement, or are these people all hiding in their bunkers or other countries, or are they even here? Because they're sure working hard to keep us all covered and locked in and in our basements, doing everything. Elections. Anyways, it's completely ridiculous, and I think that the smart thing to do is for everybody to come out of their homes and use your own best judgment on how to deal with your health risks. And I think it's necessary for us to do this, because if we don't, they're going to keep this narrative going, especially if the current president is not elected. They're going to, this is like a form of elephant training. This is the way my boyfriend's been putting it, where they kind of incremental. If we don't, they're going to keep this narrative going, especially if the current president is not elected. They're going to, this is like a form of elephant training. This is the way my boyfriend's been putting it, where they kind of incrementally get you adapted to behaving a certain way and conducting yourself a certain way. And they do it in baby steps so that you get used to it. Wearing face masks and pushing vaccines. They want you to be taking vaccines every month. According to Fauci, you're going to have to get the COVID vaccine for the rest of your life, and it may even have to be monthly or at least a couple times. And this is not normal. We've thrived as a human race all the way till now without behaving that way. And there's natural selection. And those of us who are made for it will do just fine. And those of us who are not, who are too weak and not adapted enough, well, then, yeah, they should be careful. But not if we all sit there and hide from each other, we're going to make our immune systems weaker, not stronger. Anyways, former CIA officer Alexander Yuk Ching Ma arrested and charged with spying for China. Let's take a look at this. So this one is by Christina Leila from the Gateway Pundit. The Justice Department announced Monday that a former CIA officer was arrested and charged with espionage. 67-year-old Alexander Yuk Ching Ma was arrested on Friday and charged with spying for China. According to the DOJ, for nearly 2 decades on and off, Alexander Yuk Ching Ma disclosed a substantial amount of highly classified national defense information of the United States to the MSS officers. So in other words, they were giving away our defense information to a country who would love nothing more than to destroy us. Ma was a naturalized citizen from Hong Kong and joined the CIA in 1982. He had a top secret clearance and had access to sensitive compartmented information. The DOJ said Ma conspired with an 85-year-old relative who was a naturalized citizen from Shanghai. The U.S. will not be seeking an arrest warrant for the 85-year-old co-conspirator due to an advanced and debilitating cognitive disease. In other words, the person can no longer accurately remember everything, probably. Last year, 3 former CIA officers were sentenced for conspiring with China. Last November, Jerry Chung-Shing Lee, 55, was sentenced to 19 years in prison for conspiring with China to commit espionage after being promised by Chinese officials that he would be taken care of financially for life. Lee was also a naturalized citizen of Hong Kong and served in the CIA from 1994 through 2007. He pleaded guilty to the charges in May of last year. So my question is, why is the CIA, who is actually the offshoot of Nazis, who is acting as a shadow government around the globe and operating out of the United States, they're not supposed to be allowed to conduct operations within the United States, especially against citizens, but why are they hiring U.S. citizens from Hong Kong to work for the CIA? I would think that if you're going to work in the intelligence community, you should be required to be a born citizen of that country that you're representing. I mean, that's just should be just common sense. Why do we have foreigners working for our intelligence community? It makes no sense. But anyways, so there's that. So and I know just recently they busted down the Chinese, I think it's called a consulate, basically like an embassy. They just shut them down, and there was a couple of Chinese spies hiding in there, and they also had access to our intelligence, and they were ex-military. Why were they even allowed to be working in any kind of government position in this country in the first place? Whatever. The fact that all these foreign people are allowed to operate in our intelligence community is a serious problem, in my opinion, and it makes absolutely no sense unless you're trying to give your enemies an advantage. So let's take a look here. Anything else? President Trump gives Minnesota man whose business was burnt down by rioters a super surprise rally today. I think that was yesterday, and he came here to Minnesota and gave a rally. Looked like he was right outside his plane, actually. But let's take a look here. That was a nice thing. I didn't know it was about a business. So, President Trump gave a man whose life was turned upside down by rioters earlier this year a wonderful gift today. Building a bar had his life destroyed upside down on May 27th. On that day, rioters viciously destroyed his bar and his dreams. The black man, which the rioters were supposedly rioting over, the injustices for black people. The black man and his wife were in Mankato today to see the president. KB and his wife have 4 kids, and they immigrated from West Africa 25 years ago. Oh, so he's an immigrant who actually came here to live a real American life and not destroy the country, I suppose. Sorry. And now he and his wife have to start over. He did say that through donations, he has received a lot of support. At the end of his talk, the president said, maybe we can help you out a bit, to loud applause from the rally supporters. Let's see here what he says.
With his wife, Juana, they have 4 children. He devoted his life savings to building a sports bar and fought so hard to get it built. He was so proud of it. It was up. It was successful. He was so proud. On May 27th, that dream was viciously demolished by rioters and vandals. KB and Juana, please come up and say a few words, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
My name is KB Bala. I'm a firefighter, also a businessman. This is my wife, Juana Bala. We have 4 kids out here in Minnesota. I immigrated from West Africa, Liberia. Been here for over 25 years. Always dream about opening my own bar and restaurant. That's something that I have dreamed about. So my wife and I worked so hard, saved up to have our dream come true. So it was a blessing that we could finally, get to see that, But due to the rioting that happened in the city, our bar was burned down, and we had to start over. But there's a silver lining through the whole story that the world came together. There was a lot of support, there was a lot of prayer, there was a lot of donation, and now we're in a better position to rebuild. So we're just grateful and blessed for the opportunity to start over.
So, will you be rebuilding? Will you be rebuilding?
Yes.
And you have the financing to rebuild and everything?
Working on it.
Are you close?
Close, but not close enough.
How much will it be? How much are you going to need?
We're looking at a new building right now to purchase, and it's on the market right now for 1.3 million. So that's kind of where we are right now negotiating.
Because you had a real success, right? You built a real success out here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe we can help you out a little bit with government too. We'll try. So we'll try. All right. We'll see what we can do. Okay. That's great. What a beautiful couple. Thank you. Thank you both very much.
Well, she'd be a lot prettier if she didn't have a diaper on her face.
Hey, KB, who wants to know the name of the bar? Go ahead, because the bikers over there, they'll be there. Like even if it's burned down, they'll be there tonight.
It's called Sports Bar. Sports.
This auto repair shop was looted, burned, and completely destroyed. Then the city of Minneapolis told him he had to pay property taxes before they would clear away the rubble. Same thing, Jim, right? Same thing as you have. Jamarcus, if you could come up and say a few words as to what you're going to be doing, and we'll see if we can help too. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hi, everyone. My name is Gemma Chismarga. I moved to Minnesota from Ethiopia 15 years ago. Following the protest of the killing of George Floyd in South Minneapolis, my auto repair shop, which is located on 36 and Nicollet Avenue, destroyed. The contents and customer vehicles and my own truck is completely gone. I'm here to build a new life and pursue American dream. And I'm here today to say no to this kind of action. Nobody should not be through this, and this should not be happen to anyone. And when there is a law in order. So thank you, Mr. President, for being here for us and for the others. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, and good luck with it. Good luck. You feel confident about the future?
Yes, we are already cleaning up and start rebuilding it. It might take time. This is the only way myself and my 2 little ones live from. I'm strong. I'm here to fight and to stand up again.
That's great. Thank you. Great. We'll be with you too.
Well, that was really nice. I love this president's way of trying to tap everybody and show support to anybody's needs. It tries to be all inclusive. I think that's a nice thing. Uh, it would be like I've been living in Minnesota since, well, I was born here, but that man from Africa came here and opened his bar. These people, I mean, and then the other guy, 15 years, and he had an auto store. Do you know how hard that if you're born here and you grow up here, you've got it made so much that you just you don't try as hard. You're not as inspired and motivated to start a business and do all these, big projects the way that somebody from another country will do. I don't know. It always stuns me when people come here from other countries and actually start to thrive. I can't imagine going to another country and even finding a simple job without being able to speak the language or know my way, know the way of the country. And these people are coming here barely able to speak English, sometimes not at all. And they start a business and they succeed. And then they get destroyed because of somebody's temper tantrum over something that turned out to be, turned out to be highly manipulated. I don't know if it was staged, if it was intentional, but the whole thing with the George Floyd stuff, sure, it was enraging at first, and everybody had good reason to react, and the government immediately got justice for George Floyd. They didn't waste any time. They did the best they could to handle the case. And then after looking and during the investigation and court hearing or whatever is going on with it right now, they listened to the body cam, which apparently they didn't bother to tell anybody about initially, which I don't understand. But turns out there was body cam footage where George Floyd is telling the guy to get him out of the back of the car and lay him down on the ground. Almost as if they were trying to make it look good for the cameras on purpose. And there's other things that looked kind of staged too around that event. Now, I don't know if it was meant to be staged and he just accidentally died in the process, or if he died at all, because the whole funeral thing was a little strange too. I mean, the way that they did it, it was just way overboard. For even a king wouldn't get a funeral that good. I mean, it was completely ridiculous and became a global excuse to destroy and riot all over the world. Well, it turns out in Africa, the World Bank out there is struggling, and when other people are asking them for loans to help their countries through this virus and through these riots and stuff, the bank will sit there and tell them that they'll give them the loan if they do something to destroy another country's economy, like riot and destroy and burn and all that. So this was like an opportunity for Africa's bank to really push the destruction of people's economies in the hopes that everybody will turn to them, to their World Bank, to get loans, like an attempt to basically save their own bank, I suppose. I don't know. It's all the banking stuff is so complicated, but I know that part of the New World Order plan is to be running out of that bank. So it just seemed a little bit suspicious, and I question if they knew that body cam footage was there and they knew that these things were going on, why didn't they say something right away? Why did they let all these protests and riots break out all over the place? And, that really bothers me. But anyways, so eventually, after they had plenty of time to destroy cities and economies, they released the body cam footage showing that, oh, oops, it was actually George Floyd who asked to be treated that way for whatever reason. I haven't personally listened to it to really analyze it, so I'm not going to say too much about what was on it, but that just really bothers me that they knew that footage was there, yet they let this man go down for murder and all this other stuff, and they weren't even fair about it. They didn't even put the whole story out there. They just gave us the part that they wanted us to see in order to get a reaction. And good people who really care naturally reacted to what they were seeing, including myself, and were very upset. And then they didn't stop there, and they just kept it going instead of saying, oh, wait, this body camera shows something different than what we see on the video. So, I don't know. It just really bothers me that it played out that way. And as far as I understood it, I also, somebody saw a letter from an attorney that belonged to George Floyd a couple years ago who insisted that he had died 2 years ago. So that whole case was just suspicious. And as a result, the people that they're supposed to be fighting for, like immigrants and colored people coming to this country, they all get, people's lives are taken because of it, their businesses destroyed because of it, children murdered because of it, animals terrorized and murdered because of it, people going to jail because of it, all because of a staged event or a highly manipulated event that turned out to be much different than what it appeared to be. And they could have just said something right at the beginning. Instead, they just let these riots break out. And then they did it on a global scale, which made no sense at all, because why would anybody else in another country care what was going on here with one individual? It's not like he was some famous person or some child, or he was just an average guy who had his problems and his drug issues and whatever, and they acted like he was the king of the world. It's just weird. So a lot of the people that they're supposed to be representing in these riots ended up having their lives destroyed in the name of tearing down everything the black slaves built and rebuilding it to what they want. Well, these riots have happened in the past and have been manipulated in order to turn the races against each other. And you know what? They burned them down and they tore down the places that the black slaves built. So the current infrastructure was not built by slaves. It was built, well, I guess you could technically argue that we're all kind of like slaves, but it was built by people who were being paid an hourly wage and getting out of bed and going to work every day. And then it got destroyed. Had nothing to do with the black slaves. The stuff they built was tore down when they were trying to free and abolish slavery. They instigated these kinds of riots and destruction and did it in the name of fighting against slavery, but then they actually were doing the same thing they're doing today. In the past, they would attack, create riots, race riots, and then they would burn up and destroy the town and then use that as an excuse to borrow money from the banks and the government and rebuild into something bigger and better, forcing the country into being in debt to these world banks and other countries and whatnot. So it's just it's a repeat of the same thing they've always done historically. When they want to rebuild, they just destroy everything. They just find an excuse to destroy everything, put us in debt so that we remain in a constant debt to global banking and people that do not run this country. And that is what they're trying to do again. And Trump is trying his best to get us out of that debt and keep our independence and sovereignty as a country. That's what this has all really been about. But anyways, so whatever. And let's see. It's really just not a whole lot to talk about today, apparently. So I guess I'll wrap it up there. We'll see if this video actually comes out. I guess I haven't put a whole lot of effort into these videos because every time I put one up, I might get a handful of views and then it completely flatlines, and then the next video won't get any views. So either I'm so awful, which I know I'm not that great at it, but I'm partly because putting the effort into it feels like a waste of time. Nobody sees the videos. If you are watching these videos, subscribe, give it up, let me know, give me some advice you would like me to be reporting on, and I'll put more effort into it. But right now I'm being shadow banned and censored before I can even get a single video out there. And when I do manage to slip one in under their algorithms, they hurry up and shut it down. And then they start watching my stuff again. And like the last video I did had 0 views. I even uploaded it on a different channel and still 0 views. And I know I don't have a big following, and I know I don't have anything professional going, but even the worst people in the country can get 1 million views. So there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to get something, a few thousand or so, but yet it keeps getting censored. So if you would like me to keep these videos going and improving on them, please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. That'll help get my put me out there on recommended videos to watch and things like that. So, and give me any advice if you would like me to look into something. I would be happy to do that. And I guess that's about it for the moment. News is pretty quiet today so far. I'll report back when something interesting happens. Hope y'all are having a great day.